Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to FOB TV, the future of business. It is here, this location, where we explore the forces shaping tomorrow. So I'm your host, Kevin Benedict. I'm a futurist and lecturer here at TCS. And today we're going to explore all kinds of aspects of robotics, not just the brains, but also the muscle. So this is going to be a unique discussion. And to help us do all that, I'm joined by Hiten Sonpal, CEO of RISE. Hiten, thanks for joining us.
Kevin, thank you for having me.
Where are you calling in from today?
Somerville, right outside of MIT.
Okay, yeah, Boston area. I've spent a lot of time there. Earlier in my career, I was there. Oh, where was it? Anyway, it was Iona. And Iona had a facility in Waltham, Massachusetts. So I was going back and forth from Logan Airport to Waltham all the time. So
a lot of good restaurants in Waltham.
Yeah, I remember a Thai restaurant right next to the DoubleTree that I frequented a lot. So let's just jump right in here. You've worked in just about every aspect of startups. I went through, just on your LinkedIn account. You've done a lot of work in cool areas. So what areas of the business are you most passionate about?
Well, like most people, the passion comes from the impact that the business is making on your customers, right? We are a clean tech company, so a lot of the folks, including myself, are excited about making the air cleaner.
Yeah.
We're excited about energy conservation. We're excited about, managing climate change. But that's not what we sell to our customers. For our customers, we hope to delight them with products that are more energy efficient, so they save them money, irrespective of whether they're using diesel or electric or hydrogen. And we give them products that run faster, so they can make more money with the same machines that they have by getting more throughput out of the same machines. And we help them reduce their maintenance costs by reducing downtime, which causes a lot of stress in the business. So that's what we do for our customers. And in that process, we hope to make the entire world a better place. Any improvements we make in efficiency the operating expense ultimately has an impact on the cost of goods, because our technology, hydraulics technology today, and the replacement technology that we're working on powers the backbone of the economy. So any efficiency gains get distributed to everybody in the country and eventually everyone globally. So we're excited about that.
Oh, that's lovely. So let's start out by learning a little bit more about you, then dive into the company, the products, the uniqueness, and all that. So let's just talk about your career. Just going back through your career, you've spent a lot of time in robotics. So what caught and held your attention for this long?
Well, what caught my attention was a TV show that I saw as a kid. It was a Japanese TV show that was dubbed in English and was being shown in India. And we didn't actually have a TV at the time. And I didn't even know about these shows, but I was playing in the back alley with a bunch of kids and somebody yelled, "Hey, Johnny Sokko's flying robot is on." And a bunch of kids just ran into a house and, invited me over. And so there are like 6 kids hanging out a small 16-inch black and white TV set, trying to watch what's happening in this show very, very close to the television because the screen's so small.
Oh, yeah.
But it was, a kid's show with a lot of repeat cuts, just to stretch out the time and take up as much time as possible so that they had to create less footage and control costs. But I walked away from that show inspired, and I was like, I want to build a flying robot, which I haven't yet built. Yeah. But that was a passion that stuck with me. And then when I got to college, I built my first robot. It was a chess playing robot, which was my senior project, the best senior project in computer engineering that year. And after that, I joined a consulting firm that was doing robotics work with iRobot. And then it's just continued since then.
I love it. I love it. With your vast amount of experience in all different aspects of startups and robotics, the world must be available to you. You can go anywhere because this is the hottest technology out there. You chose to lead RISE. What did you see in RISE that was so appealing to you?
Well, it sort of happened by accident. I was reaching out and reconnecting with some friends, and one of them happened to work at RISE Robotics. And he mentioned what he was working on, this replacement for hydraulic technology. And my immediate response was, oh, you're working on screw type actuators. So you turn a screw and you push and pull instead of using a hydraulic system. And he said, nope, we're doing something completely different. We're using belts. And I said, that's not going to work. He said, oh, sure, just take a look at the patents. And so I started to look at the patents and I got really excited. And I said, I want to come and see the place if you wouldn't mind. And so he brought me on board, signed a non-disclosure. He showed me around. I met the founders of the company. And we just chit-chatted. They figured out what my experience was, and they asked me to join them as a consultant, which I did. And eventually, at some point, they asked me to be CEO of the company, and I accepted. So that's how that transition happened. But
that's a great story. I love that.
Yeah.
That shows that being aggressive worked. Yeah, that's awesome. Now, for us that aren't engineers or involved in hydraulics and things, walk us through what the problem is that you guys are able to solve in a different way.
Yeah, so the key problem with hydraulics is that when you think about how a linear hydraulic system moves, how the rod that's on the output of the cylinder moves, it's being pushed by hydraulic fluid on both sides. Right? So you increase the pressure on one side and you increase the pressure on the other side, and that's how you get the piston to move. Well, that pressure is distributed in the entire system, right? So it shows up on every seal, it shows up on every interface, and eventually those interfaces are going to leak. So you have something that's eventually going to be a maintenance challenge no matter what. That's the first problem. The second problem is when you're trying to move viscous fluid through small pipes and openings, you create eddy currents, and the eddy currents create energy losses. So there's going to be this inefficiency that's built into the system. And lastly, because you're pushing something viscous through small holes, you have a speed limit, which is how fast can you move the oil, because the pressure on one side can build up before it shows up on the output side. So you're limited in speed, you're limited in efficiency, and you're limited in durability of the system. That's just the core trade-off that you have to embrace when you go to a hydraulic system. But what you get in exchange for it is high force classes, right? And what we do with our Beltdraulic technology is we've been able to recreate those force classes. So build things that are very, very strong, but do it in ways that are efficient, that don't leak, and that can move quickly. And we do this by, instead of pushing the piston, we pull it with contemporary high-strength belts. And that allows us to be very intentional about where the energy is going and make it very efficient and fast, therefore.
So I am familiar with hydraulic systems from my years on the dairy farm driving tractor. I have hydraulics everywhere. I'm doing the lift, I'm doing the scraper, I'm doing everything all day long, plus all the farm implements that we have that are hydraulic. Now, if we look at an automobile manufacturing plant and there's 1,000 robots there, are there hydraulics everywhere?
In the lower force classes, there are electric rotary actuators that are used.
Okay.
But once you start to get into something that's in the higher weight class, it gets very difficult to build up a motor that has the kind of torque you need, the speed you need, and you start to run into these problems of scale where the mass goes up as the cube of the size, but the power isn't going up that fast. So then you still have to fall back to linear actuators for the most powerful of movements.
Are you guys leading in this industry? Are you creating a new industry, or are there a lot of competitors in this?
Well, I would say that we're transforming the industry. Okay. Already is a huge market for hydraulic systems. It's roughly $750 billion a year in sales. And so there's plenty of opportunity for us to start taking big slices of this market by addressing people's pain points.
So what are the biggest obstacles that still remain in your field, in robotics, in these kinds of challenges? What are the big obstacles that you're trying to solve?
One of the problems we're trying to solve is the problem of electrification. So there are a lot of companies and a lot of customers that are interested in electrified systems. For example, the Port of California would like to be zero emissions by 2030. Realistically speaking, they're going to have to extend their deadline. And what's challenging about trying to electrify a place like a port is that the machines that are used in these ports require a lot of power. And most of that power is wasted in the hydraulic system. So when you decide to swap out a diesel engine and put in a generator and a battery pack, or rather a pump and a battery pack, the battery pack is huge and it usually doubles the cost of the machine, at which point that machine is unviable from a ROI perspective. So the state of California then has to offer people vouchers, and they only have so much they can offer in vouchers. So all the vouchers disappear in the first 2 weeks they're available, and then nobody buys a electric hydraulic system anymore. With our technology, that battery size would get cut in half. And it's not just the battery size that would get cut in half. The charging infrastructure that's at the port would get cut in half or be able to charge twice as many machines. The upgrades that have to happen to the grid would be cut in half. And even the additional power generation that's needed to power these electric machines would be cut in half. And so with a lot of stress happening on the grid now, with AI also making demands, we feel that our technology is really positioned to help electrify systems in a cost-effective way while managing all the electricity demands that are happening today.
And this is brilliant. If I could ask you for the last question here to put on your Futurist hat, where do you see your industry, this robotics, in your special area? Where do you see it in 10 years from now?
Well, I think everyone is getting used to the idea of working from home.
Yep.
And folks are looking at amplifying human labor because we have a demographics challenge where a lot of experienced blue-collar workers are working their way out of are retiring from the workforce. And so I see there being an increase in automation and amplification. It's not going to be a step function. It's going to take a while, but I see that soon here, we'll be able to start doing semi-autonomous operation of these machines, where a single operator is able to control multiple machines that are doing some tasks autonomously. And they'll be able to do that simply because our technology is very precise. You can control it more precisely than hydraulic systems. And it's also drive-by-wire. So you can put the operator not at the machine, because if you're controlling 3 machines, you have to be somewhere else. Yep. And that place could even be home. So I see a future where we have single operators operating multiple construction machines, multiple forklifts, and doing it from home. And I see there being an increasing amount of autonomy assist being added slowly over time.
This is all very fascinating. And for those listening out there, this is RISE, R-I-S-E. Pay attention to it. And Hiten, where are you guys in your maturity curve? What round are you? Do you have investors? Talk to us about it.
Sure. So we're doing a Series A raise currently. When I joined the company, we were selling products to primarily the Air Force. Since then, we won our first contract with the Army, and we've sold our first commercial product. And that was in the second half of last year into the oil and gas space. Oil and gas production isn't going away anywhere. It's also very dirty, and there's a lot of waste in it. So we see this as an opportunity to sell product at high margins to an industry that we can clean up and make more efficient. So I see our near-term thrusts being in helping the Department of Defense transition away from these hydraulic systems that are costing them a lot of fuel, causing our warfighters to inhale a lot of diesel smoke, making them less effective because of the noise, transitioning them to something that's clean and faster and making them more effective and increasing their quality of life at work, and tackling heavy industry starting with oil and gas, and then moving our way into marine and maritime, because there's a huge desire to get hydraulic oil spills out of the ocean, out of ports, and to reduce the smoke that's being emitted there and the noise, because it is waterfront property. Yeah. Developers want a piece of that. So we see a trend there, a macro trend, where we think we can make a meaningful difference. And there are early adopter customers that would lean in to make something happen with us. As far as investors go, we've done something unique. We decided that we wanted to make the opportunity to invest in RISE available to the general public. When I joined the company, we had 1,500 followers on social media. Mm-hmm. And these were folks that had sold us parts, shown up to the facility, just visited, walked by, and poked their head in and asked us what's going on. And once they figured out what's going on, they said, hey, can we participate in this in some way? And at that time, we didn't have anything. So we just asked them to follow us on social media.
Yeah.
But then what we decided to do is to open up our previous institutional round to the public using this new law that the SEC has passed called Reg CF. It allows companies to raise $5 million from the general public, and it allows the general public an early access into startups. We're allowed to raise a maximum of $5 million. We ended up raising or getting $5.7 million of reservation last year. We were the number one regulation crowdfunded raise last year. And we're still trying to figure out how to get these excess $700,000 worth of investments into the company. Yeah. So we have 2,500 investors, and these are folks that make introductions to customers. They make introductions to other investors. They want to supply us parts. They want to turn into customers. It's just amazing having this many people in our corner.
That's awesome. It's all about lining up those incentives, right?
That's right.
That's brilliant. Hiten, I want to thank you so much for joining the program today, sharing your guys' progress and innovation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin.